Well, people have asked me, even here at the end of March 2025, of your two novels that you published, Unequivocal Malice, 2004, and After Dark, 2015. What is Unequivocal Malice about? And so this is part 6. I've been answering some of that. If you browse through here, you take a look at it, there's a farm there, and it's kind of old looking, and there's a person's face, whoever that person is, probably the sheriff in there. I'm not exactly sure who that is. That's the way the artist interpreted that. I am sure my name is Michael Kujawski. I'm the writer of this, which I published in 2004 at iUniverse.com. It's available on the internet, but not in Kindle. And that was my pen name, Michael Parker, at that time. And, here it gives you a little background here in part 6. When he was a troubled youth, his turbulent father told him a crazy story. Haunted by the indignity of his unstable childhood, his passion for revenge is almost demonic. Danger lurks. That's talking about the main suspect in this mystery suspense type homicide plot. So I was going over this middle section, goes over the past, and I mentioned that there's a prologue which begins the novel with a violent episode, and it's not clear what's going on. Then the first several chapters introduce the characters in here. A reformed gambling addict who has opened a resort in the area where there are tourists, and two new reporters at a newspaper and a newsroom back in the early 2000s when they had a larger staffs at small town newspapers, and then the main sheriff's deputy and some of the other deputies and the sheriff. All these people are among the folks in here who are working on the case. So here I'm talking about playing cards here, and in chapter 23, part 6 here, the card players began arriving at the front door shortly before 8 o'clock. A downpour had ended an hour ago, and the sultry evening air held the dank smell of rain. The storm had started in the southwest, the jagged clouds streaking across the city, and trailed off into the northeast, a shrinking ball on the horizon. Let me flip to the next chapter, if I can, with one hand here, because I'm filming this with my phone camera, and the next one, chapter 24 or 25, we're going to go to chapter 25, I guess. I missed 24. The past. Morehouse sized up the shot, which looked challenging. The cue ball was touching the blue-striped 10 ball. After surveying the table, he realized there were no other balls he could sink. He didn't want to hit a safety, and there was a chance he could skin the side of the 10 into the near corner pocket. Morehouse circled the table, studying the shot from 3 distinct angles. No matter how he visualized the projected shot, it looked like the cue ball would send the 10 into the rail rather than the pocket. Morehouse is the reformed gambling addict I was talking about in this novel, where he has made mistakes in the past, and now he's trying to compensate for them by being an independent, self-made businessman who's running his own hotel resort operation. And he happened to be in the vicinity of a forest or woods area. He happened to be out in it with a camcorder filming nature when an apparent homicide took place. He did not witness the homicide. He didn't see any murder. He did hear some loud noises, and so he was one of the characters in here that the sheriff's department investigated, and that the two young untried journalists also talked to. He did not have, I don't believe he had a lot of evidence, but the part of the reason he's in here with games and sports, I mentioned billiards also, along with playing cards, is Uh, when I was in elementary school, my grade 8 teacher asked me to read a couple of my short stories aloud to the class. And it was actually somewhat prophetic in that as I got older and went to high school, I went to Nicolay High School in the Milwaukee area. One of my communications teachers, Rick Young, asked me to join the forensics team. So I did original oratory for 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior on the forensics team. And my thinking was probably sports back in those days. And unfortunately, I didn't last long on the high school sports teams. I was actually cut from all of them, I believe. I did play sports representing a bar tavern league team in softball, and I did also represent my church in basketball and baseball. But I had received a recommendation based on my, short stories and my original oratory forensics and stuff to try the other elementary school kids in grade 8 suggested I should try to stick with a sports as an adult, not as an athlete. They were probably thinking in terms of whatever job I could get in it. I have been a sports editor on 2 occasions. I was a sports editor in Grayslake, Illinois, at a newspaper chain there in the 1980s called that was the Grayslake Times. It was called Lakeland Newspapers. I was also a sports writer for a chain of weeklies here in the Milwaukee area. This is St. Francis, Bayview Park. And did sports here for community newspapers, which have now, after the Journal purchased them, they went out of business. They covered local people sort of one person at a time, which large metropolitan newspapers like the Journal do not cover things that way. They have more serious investigative reporting. So, and I also did sports out in the middle of Wisconsin near Madison, where I graduated from the university. I did sports there for the Daily Register in Portage. So, but here is 25. It was Saturday, a bright, lazy June day in 1979. Stonehill, who's the major suspect in this story, Stonehill, an 18-year-old senior at Centerville North High School, an alienated kid whose friends had nicknamed him Mars, was supposed to have rotated the tires on his father's car, a 1974 Buick Special. Actually, we had a Buick Special back in the 70s, and going down a hill, the brakes went out on it one day, but it was a fine car. We've had many Buicks. He had gotten carried away on Friday night like other young people caught up in the glitz of the late 1970s, draining too many pitchers of beer and too many shots of whiskey, the alcohol circulating through his system like blood. To Nate's way of thinking, that's Nate Stonehill, the main suspect in this novel, his father had been partly responsible while Nate had contemplated staying home to avoid the 25-degree temperature outdoors, 25. His father set a drinking binge in motion. He had given Nate a stern lecture about the importance of automobile maintenance, creating in Nate a need to contact a friend and hit Roth's, one of Centerville's country bars. So, in the real world, Philip Roth, one of the Roths, wrote a novel called Portnoy's Complaint about sexual issues. But here I have this with games, cards, that kind of thing. References to sports, as was suggested when I was a kid. The past 1970s, Morehouse sized up the shot, which looked challenging. Again, the cue ball chapter 25. And I guess I am running out of time. So here was part 6, answering the question, what is in your first novel, Unequivocal Malice?